I mocked him for being a weak man, and then he ruined everything. Life can get really tough sometimes. One moment, you're just fine and in love with your man. The next, your life falls apart and gets destroyed by the one you thought was your love. I might be sounding like I am the victim here, but to be honest, I am not. I am the one who cheated on my husband, and then he ruined everything. Yeah, you are right. I ruined everything. Hi, Reddit guys. I am Lisa, and I am 33 years old. I got married when I was 26 with the one I thought was the love of my life, Leo. Leo was my age, and we had been together for a long time now. It actually feels like forever. I knew him when we were together in college. We both studied architecture, and we both are architects. We had our own studio. Well, we were good economically and emotionally until I let someone else, and until my husband exploded his bomb, everything he had gathered regarding my affair and my behavior. To you, this one is going to be an interesting story, but to me, it is the worst nightmare of my life. I am still trying to get myself together. And also, I know that you all will be judging me for what I did. But things happen, life goes on, and then you can't control everything. Maybe I am wrong, and maybe you can't. But I lost control of everything, and I am here telling you all how my life got destroyed and hoping that somehow I will find a little support and consolation over here. Like I said before, Leo and I had our own architecture studio, and we have really worked hard to get there, the both of us. It took a lot of work, sacrifices, and long, sleepless nights, but we did it. We nearly forgot how it felt to go out and have fun. For a long time, we were just working, eating, and sleeping. We didn't go on vacation, and we didn't even go to see a movie, nothing at all. So life was really busy and hard. I missed the old us. I miss how we would go to movies, take road trips, and just go out on a dinner date. I missed everything, and it felt like we were not living at all. We were living for work and not working for a living. Somehow along the way, we confused things. It didn't change anything. Even later on, when we settled our own business, things only got worse. So yeah, we had money, but we were not living. I wanted to go out, and I wanted to travel and live. Life was more than just work, and we were only working. I tried talking to my husband. I expressed my feelings about our life and the worries I was experiencing. I said that I wanted us to take some days off and just try and live a little more. He was not okay with that, and he immediately showed all the work that we had to get done. Well, I made it clear to him that with or without him, I was going to live, and I was going to do all the things I liked to do, like dancing, going out, trying different foods, and visiting different places. When he heard me saying those things, he put a smile on his face and responded ironically, "Yeah, I will be here to see how you will live." It made me go crazy with his way of talking. I mean, I wanted to live my life with him, but he didn't want to, so I would start doing things by myself or with my friends. I had a lot of friends. So I asked my husband if I could get a week off because I was planning to visit France with my friends. I have always wanted to go to Paris, but he never agreed to come with me, so now I want to go with my friends. He also started feeling jealous and didn't agree for me to take a week off, telling me we had many things to do at the studio and it was not the right moment to go on vacation. Then I found a way out, and I said that I could take some of the work with me, but I was dying to visit Paris. I begged him to let me. He still didn't accept, but he said that I could go the first week of the next month. I asked him if he wanted to come with me, but he didn't want to, and again, ironically, he said that someone had to be there to work for the both of us. I really wanted him to come with me because everyone knows that Paris is the city of love, and you want to visit it with the love of your life. Well, the love of my life didn't want to come and visit Paris with me, but I was going with my single friends, and I was going to have a lot of fun. I promised myself that. For the time I would be there, I would work really hard because I really didn't want to take work with me. I wanted to have a decent vacation. I didn't go to any place for a long time, and I wanted to enjoy my time there. Also, I didn't do anything for a long time with my friends, so it was a good chance to take some time for myself. Things were going all good with the work. I was getting very tired, but at least I was happy, and I was counting down the days until the week of the travel. But things don't always go the way you want them to. We both were going to the office every day, and we both had our clients whom we worked for. One of them started getting more special to me. His name was Luis, and he was 30 years old, so 3 years older than me. That didn't stop us from starting a love relationship. He was special from all of my clients. It all began when my husband decided that he didn't have more time to go out and enjoy life, and we both should really work hard for our future and our future babies. But what babies and what future? How would we have made babies if we were not spending time together? It wasn't possible. Can you imagine that we were not even having sex lately because we were always working hard? Not just him, me too. But when our studio was settled and difficulties were almost done, I explained to him that we needed to spend more time together because we were turning into robots that would just work and that's all. So we were working for our future, but we were not living in the present. Our days were passing by and my husband would not understand that. He just wanted to work and reach his work goals. So when I met Luis, I was kind of depressed and struggling to find a solution for our marriage. I wanted to find a way to work things out, but my husband was really giving me a hard time. He even was letting me go to Paris, the city of love, alone. Luis was a kind and handsome blonde guy with blue eyes. I got lost in those blue eyes. He brought back the colors into my life. He made me feel happy again and alive, like there was more than work out there, and I started experiencing everything with him until my husband found it out and took revenge. Luis started coming to our architecture studio like every other client. He had bought a new apartment, and he needed my help with its interior design and decor. I was happy to help him, and I will not lie, but he got my attention from the beginning. I guess something happened between us, because he started flirting with me from the very first moment. I could not say no to him, it was impossible. I would just look into his eyes and melt. So yeah, Luis started flirting with me, and I had to meet him often because I was working for him and he was our client. From time to time we started getting closer. I had felt the vibe for a long time, but the bomb exploded one day when I went to see him, and I was working or planning to go to his apartment. We were talking and talking about work, and suddenly he came near me, very near, and whispered, "Let's just stop talking about work. You have felt it too. There is a connection between us, and we can't escape it anymore." And then he just kissed me. He didn't give me the time to answer or say anything. He just kissed me. The problem was that I kissed him back. I didn't stop him. I kissed him and then I moved away from him, telling him we could not do this because I was married and he was just my client. Luis let me think about it and went out to take us some coffee. I left there alone with my doubts, my fears, and my desire to kiss him again and feel his body touching mine. I will be honest with you. I wanted to feel him inside me. It had been some time since my husband and I had sex, and I mean real and passionate sex. But also I didn't want to cheat on my husband. What would I do? Luis was so handsome and had this body like he was a movie actor. I could not stop looking into his blue eyes, and I wanted him to be mine. Luis was single, by the way, or that is what he told me. I was still thinking when he came back with 2 coffees and some sweets. He handled my coffee and left the sweets there for both of us. We started talking about our lives. He said he had this feeling that I had problems with my husband, and me, as a stupid and naive girl, I admitted to having problems with Leo, and I even explained our problems. Then he did it again. He came near me and whispered, "Let me take away those problems, my dear." I surrendered myself to him, and I decided to let things flow. It happened that we had sex in an empty apartment, so I cheated on my husband with one of my clients. Not just an ordinary client, he was really handsome, and he really made me so happy. From that day, we had sex every other day at his apartment. Can you imagine he even got a mattress and put it there for us to enjoy it? Sex was amazing. We had this crazy passion. I know it will look like a cliche, but once we had sex in the elevator, it was very fast, but the adrenaline and the pleasure we got from it were wonderful. I had no words to explain it. He took me to the sky and back to earth. With him, I was experiencing some feelings I had never experienced before. But wait, there is more of our crazy sex experiences. We like the adrenaline of doing it in risky places where others would have a possibility to find out. I was really crazy, and now I think, how could I do it? Maybe you will not believe me, and you will call me stupid and crazy, but Luis and I had sex on the table of my office, and my husband was working in his office. Of course I locked the door, but he would be suspicious if he came there during that moment because what was I doing in my office with a client and the door locked? It was clear what we were doing, but fortunately he didn't come and we enjoyed sex so much. Luis used to tell me later that sex in my office was the greatest. I agreed with him because I liked it too. I liked it so much that I wanted it to be repeated, but little did I know that it was going to be the end of me and my marriage. Our relationship was going on, and it was all about sex, I would say. We never had any deep conversation about our lives, and he never told me anything special. He was the escape from my husband, but, to be honest, this would change when I decided to go to Paris with him. Like I told you before, I was planning to go there with my girlfriends, but they canceled since one of them was going through some hard times at work, so he had to go to her office during those days. When they told me, I decided to invite Luis, and he said yes. During this time, my husband had not been suspicious, or he had not shown any doubts towards me. He was not jealous because he was working so much about work, and it wasn't left any time for me. So yeah, when the time came for me to go to Paris, he just told me to have fun and promised that one day we would go there together. I was kind of surprised by his words, because he had been showing me some love lately. I hoped that maybe things would get better between us, but also I didn't know what I wanted anymore. I was going to Paris with my client, Luis. We traveled to Paris, and I loved it. We stayed there for just 3 days, and I guess that it wasn't enough for the city of love. But anyway, they were some wonderful days for us. That was the time when he started opening up to me and talking about his life. He told about how he lost his dad in a car accident, and it was the most painful experience for him. I felt so sorry, and I could just hug him and adore him for how strong he was. He told me that before dying he had fought with his dad, and he struggled to forgive himself for how things went. Luis hoped that he had hugged his dad before he left instead of fighting with him. But you see, we never know when it's going to be the last time we are going to see someone. That's why we have to be kind. Yeah, we have to be kind. I was thinking that while I was in Paris with my lover cheating with my husband, in that moment I really felt sad. But I wanted to continue our experience, and that is what I did. I enjoyed those days with Luis. We had very good sex. I swear the city I always dreamed to see, and I felt happy. The day to come back came, and I felt really sad. I wanted to stay there more, and I wanted to stay there with Luis, but we couldn't, so we went back. Work was waiting for me, and so was my husband. There was so much to do, and while I had been spending my days with Luis and having sex at his apartment, of every place we could, I didn't do much at work. So when I came back, my husband didn't actually ask me if I had a good time. He told me that he had entered my office and he had seen that nothing was done. He asked what I have been doing every day. So we fought as soon as I got in. Honestly, I didn't know what to say because he was right. I had not been working as I used to. Luis had driven into a way I never thought I would go. I will be judged a lot because of my story, but there is nothing to do about it. While I was fighting with my husband, I started mocking him for being a weak man. I told him he was weak because he was only talking about work, and he could not do anything else. And when I told him so, he got me in his hands and put me on the table, and he didn't even lock the door. But he undressed me in a very wild but hot and sexy way, and we did it. It was crazy but amazing. I had never seen my husband so mad and hot just because I called him weak. When he finished, he told me, "Try calling me a weak man again." I said that I would call him weak more often, and then I winked at him. But mocking him as weak became something usual for me. Every time he said something I didn't like, I mocked him as a weak man. I was not only mocking him as a weak man, but I was also cheating on him. I was doing it under his eyes at my office with the door locked. I knew that my husband could come to the door and find out everything, but I never thought that my husband would be so smart and insert a camera in my office. He was not weak. Actually, he was very strong and smart. Eventually, he started getting suspicious and jealous about all the times I was going out and how often Luis was coming into my office. Well, Leo was really obsessed with work, and he was very professional and very good at his job, but he was also a good and a kind man. He had always tried so hard to make me happy, but things were not easy for us. And while he didn't give up on me, I did give up on him. I gave up on him the moment that I started cheating on him with Luis. The moment when I let someone in my life while I was married to the love of my life. I didn't know that marriage isn't always love, happiness, and fun. Sometimes marriage means having a hard time with your partner but not giving up on him. I did the opposite. I escaped my husband and my marriage by cheating on my husband with my client, Luis. It continued for some months. It ended when my husband found out and when I started mocking him as weak. As I was telling you before, my husband was smart because he had been having doubts, so he had been watching over me through the camera I didn't know was in my office. Can you imagine that he even filmed and recorded the scene of sex between us? It is not fair to put a camera in someone's office, even though I know I am the one to blame in this case. But a camera in someone's office means you are affecting their freedom. I hated him for that. But of course he hated me for cheating on him, and he ruined everything. He was right to hate me because what I did was cruel. While he had been watching everything, I was still having sex and going out with Luis. Sometimes at his apartment, which was still a work in progress, and sometimes at my office. Having sex in my office became having sex, and I liked it. I did it with my husband once, and Kay did it with Luis so many times. I could not count them anymore. Even though I had noticed that my husband was asking so many questions regarding my time out and why Luis was coming so often to our studio, I didn't stop meeting Luis. His blue eyes had stolen my heart, and the way we had sex had turned me into an addicted person. I was addicted to having sex with him. So I continued our love affair until it all ended and my life got destroyed. This is what happened to us. One day my husband came into my office and told me that he was going home a little earlier because he was preparing a surprise for me. He said that I would really be very surprised, and this time I would stop mocking him as weak. This time he winked at me and closed the door of my office. Actually, I didn't know what he was planning, and I never would have guessed what he did. I was in shock. In a total shock. I went back home and I found him sitting on the sofa with a glass of wine in his hands. He had a glass empty waiting to be filled for me, and as soon as he saw me, he asked me to sit near him because we were going to watch a short movie together. It was going to be a hot one. I thought that we were really going to watch a movie together. Later on, we will have dinner, he said, if you can still eat after you watch this movie. I am sure you will like it, though. He turned on the TV and the screen showed us having sex in my office. He laughed, telling me that my office had turned into a perfect hotel room. I was shocked and I thought he had seen me and Luis as well. I was shaking and feeling so scared. He asked me not to be scared because it was going to be a beautiful movie. After the scene of sex with him ended, another one started, but this time with Luis. There wasn't just one scene with him. There were many, and I didn't want to watch them. Actually, I told my husband to turn it off. He told me that I had done sex and now I couldn't watch it. He looked so cold. But I knew I had broken his heart, and I had destroyed his world. I didn't know what to say because there was nothing to say. But I was so sorry, and I was there crying as my world was falling apart. I begged him to forgive me and told him that I was going through a hard time with him and I didn't know what to do. I confessed my love for him again, and I said that nothing had changed in my heart. He still looked very cold and told me that he would never forgive me for what I did to him. He said that he had done nothing but work for us and for the family that we were planning to build. He exactly said, I was working so hard for both of us while you were into your office with one of our clients. I broke his heart, and now he was breaking mine. I asked him about the time when he found out about my affair, and he said that it had been a while. Then he showed me the door. He told me that he never wanted to see me again, and that he was going to send all of my things to my parents' home. He also said that he was not going to tell them the truth about what woman he was with just because they were good people, and he cared about them. My parents always loved him very much, and he also loved him. That is why he agreed not to tell them anything. While I was crying, I begged him one more time to let me stay. I promised that I was going to do everything that he wanted, and I would make him forgive me. He said that he would never forgive me because what I did was unforgivable. He was still very cold, and he asked to go out, staring at me in the angriest way. I had never seen him this angry or mad, but there was nothing to do anymore. I went out crying and leaving him behind. No matter how much I begged, he didn't agree to let me stay there with him. Well, actually, I was begging for nothing just to try because I knew he was not going to forgive me. He was not a man who would accept being cheated on and live with it. Life was about to get really hard. My husband ruined my life. I went back to my parents' home with tears in my eyes. I felt devastated and destroyed. Of course, they would ask what happened, and while I was crying, I decided to tell them that we were going to get divorced, me and my husband. I wanted to find the courage and tell them the truth because I didn't want to continue living with lies, but I couldn't. I wasn't brave enough. I was just a coward that cheated on her husband because I could not work things out. I am the one that had everything and destroyed it, but that wasn't enough. My life was not ruined yet, and it was going to be ruined the next day. That night I was hurt very much, and I was regretting everything that I had done. I wished I could turn back time, but it's not possible. That is why we have to think about how we act and the decisions we take in life. Everything we do has its own consequences, and we have to accept them. So I was facing the consequences of my own actions, and time could not be turned back. I went to sleep that night, but I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about how I could work with Leo, who was going to be my ex-husband soon. How could I do that? I could not think of any way. Maybe I would sell my part to him and just find another job. My life at that moment was a real mess, and I also had to find another apartment for me because I could not live forever with my parents. While I was thinking, Luis was calling me, but I didn't feel like telling him what happened and how my husband found out everything. So I turned my phone off and tried to sleep. Maybe the next day I would feel better. The next day I woke up and started to get ready to go to work. I didn't know what to expect or what was waiting for me there, but I had to go. Our architecture studio belonged to both of us. We both worked really hard for it. But there was another surprise waiting for me there. When I went there, I found my office locked, and I felt really angry because he had no right to do that to me. That studio was mine too. What I didn't know was that while I was having sex over my work table, my husband had been planning his revenge, and he made me sign some documents that I didn't even read. I was too busy having sex with Luis to notice and to read the documents that I would find every day on my table. I never thought my husband could do something like that, but he did. I had signed a document where I declared that I donated my part of the architectural studio to my husband with my free will and without being influenced by any pressure. I found this out after I went to my husband's office asking why he had locked my office and telling him to give me the keys. As soon as I said those words, he didn't say a word. He just gave me this document and asked me to read it, and he said, "Please, after reading it, leave this place because I don't want to see you ever again just disappear." The earth was trembling under my feet. How could I be so stupid and sign documents without even reading them? But I did it, and here I am, left with nothing and living with my parents. My husband ruined everything, but actually it was me who ruined everything with my stupid decisions and actions. This is the story I will always regret, guys. Hoping that I will not be judged very much, I wish you all the best. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. Love, Lisa. Update. Hey Reddit guys, it's me Lisa again. I'm here for a short update for everyone that had asked me for it. You all have been asking what happened with Luis. Well, I ended things with him, guys, because I think I never felt anything for him in the first place. I was just bored and sad because of my marriage, and he was a good option to escape the sadness instead of trying to work things out with my husband. I am still living with my parents and I am trying to find a job. As you can see, I am still jobless and homeless. My life is a mess, and I am really in pain. I don't know how to get out of this situation I have created. I haven't seen my husband anymore, but we are getting divorced. He is the smart one in this story. I hurt him, and he hurt me twice more. He left without anything. This is all, guys. I have nothing to say anymore. I am really thankful for the time you spent reading my story, and I wish you all the best. Much love, Lisa.